Banned on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, PayPal, Uber, and more. The left has labeled her a conspiracy theorist, an anti-Muslim bigot, and worse. Why do they work so hard to slander her with lies? Why is the radical left so afraid of Laura Loomer?
All of them were designated dangerous individuals and banned from Facebook and from its subsidiary Instagram.
Conservative journalist by the name of Laura Loomer.
She's way braver than me.
She has bigger balls than most of the men I know.
The left fears Laura Loomer for one simple reason. She's a fighter.
Go read the book.
Hey, Mr. Kobe.
You are a liar, Jack Gordon. Elon, why did you marry your brother? This isn't just about why are you standing with people who openly support Hamas?
Laura Loomer is running for Congress in Florida's 11th District. On August 23rd, send a fighter to Congress. Vote for Laura Loomer in the Republican primary.
I'm Laura Loomer, and I approve this message.
And the only thing better than this fantastic spot is Laura Loomer herself. Welcome. Welcome, Laura. So happy to see you. We are following you for so long. And among the people who come to my channel, you are the embodiment of young people with right ideas.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to be on your show tonight. So I'm happy we could make it work.
Yeah, we are growing show, and we are not as big as so many mostly Russian-speaking shows on the YouTube, which are kindred in spirit, but we do it in two languages. We pay attention to the candidates, we pay attention to the politics, because people... Like, I always remember this saying, the broken clock is right twice a day, right? And this Russian socialist clock is right for the second time already, because we were talking about the dangers of socialism, dangers of this incredible attention to the rearrangement of American society, very fragile as we can see now. And now it's our time to cry alarm and ring the alarm again for the rest of the country, because we feel very, very much this country is in trouble. So what's your feeling nowadays?
Well, I completely agree with you. And, we're watching history repeat itself, and nobody would understand the threat of communism or whether history itself was repeating, or if America was turning into a communist nation than a Russian himself. And so, I think it's interesting. I feel especially bad for people who, they came to this country thinking that they were going to escape communism, whether it be, in Eastern Europe or in Latin or South America, only to now find themselves living under communism here in the United States of America. And whether it's with stolen rigged election and the destruction of voter integrity, or this, intense communist takeover of the technological sphere through big tech tyranny and big tech censorship, we are turning into a communist country. And I don't know if we can really handle another election cycle after 2022. I mean, this may be our last chance to really get this country back on track before we completely collapse as a communist nation. And so I'm running for Congress for the second time. I ran last election cycle. Obviously, my election was stolen along with Donald Trump's. And now I'm running again. You aren't defined by how many times you get knocked down. You're defined by how many times you get knocked down and get back up. And so I believe that America is worth fighting for. I don't want to live in a communist nation. And so I'm running for Congress again to, push that America First agenda and fight back against this communist takeover.
How to turn younger people to the right ideas? What's your opinion? What's your experience? I'm not asking about your own experience, because your career arc, so to speak, is very well known and obvious. You went with Project Veritas. You're active. You get in the face of people who wish us well, people who do not understand. Yeah, it was irony. It was a.
people who wish we were in gas chambers and getting blown up by Hamas rockets, and the people who wish we were subjugated under Sharia law. Those
Yeah,
people.
that's right. That's right. We saw some of them in this video that you put together, your team put together, and it's fantastic. And what stuns us, and I speak on behalf of the audiences here who has the experience of living under Soviets and socialist countries, so much of the policies is. What they try to do is pure punishment. The world wouldn't win. The rest of the world wouldn't win without America. With America not being present in the world, wouldn't be better without Israel in the world. And it's just amazing how driven they are by this destruction. There is no positive program behind any democratic ideas.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And what's crazy to me, and you might find this to be, humorous yourself, is that, when you look at the global map, right, and you look at politics on a worldwide level, and you see that the United States of America is, held up, or at least has been held up, as this beacon of hope. It's supposedly the freest country in the world, right? The freest nation, the nation that other nations and other people look to, and other world leaders look to as that shining example, right, of what a real republic is supposed to look like, right, or democracy, even though we are a constitutional republic. And yet, what is happening in this country is so extreme that even people like Vladimir Putin himself, right, and Russia, are criticizing what is happening here in the United States of America. I mean, Vladimir Putin, after the 2020 election, came out and said that our elections were rigged here, and that it was obvious that the big tech social media companies were a threat to election integrity, and were a threat to the integrity of our elections, and also world leaders. Because what happened when Donald Trump, of course, was deplatformed while he was a sitting United States president, it sent shockwaves around the world to other leaders, because they realized in that moment that elections, right, it's supposed to be the American people or people around the world that pick and choose their leaders. But in that moment, every single world leader realized that big tech was more powerful than any elected official or installed official in the world, for that matter. And so, it's a pretty sad state of affairs when you have Russia criticizing the United States of America with regards to free speech and free and fair elections.
No, Russia, Putin especially is a big master of propaganda, and they have their programs running in this country since I don't know. They won since the Russian Revolution won in 1917 in the 20th century. They were very interested in fomenting working class, as they call it. They failed here in the States because our working class is extremely prosperous. You cannot compare the poverty of Russian proletariat with what they would like to see as American proletariat. So it's a failed program. So now they subvert things left and right wherever they can. But let me ask you this: you were President Trump supports your candidacy. Am I correct?
Well, he supported my candidacy last election cycle when I ran in District 21 in Florida, which is his district where he lives. And of course, he endorsed me and he voted for me. And I've since switched districts. I've moved 4 hours north to Central Florida. I'm running for Congress in Villages now in District 11. Of course, that's subject to change depending on redistricting. When I say subject to change, I mean the number of the district, of course, once they shift it. But I moved up to this area in Central Florida, and the guy I'm running against is a do-nothing Republican incumbent by the name of Dan Webster, and he's a career politician, one of the only members of Congress who didn't show up to support President Trump during the second impeachment. And so, for all intents and purposes, Donald Trump is not a fan of Dan Webster. So he certainly does not support my Rhino incumbent opponent, who was too lazy and too cowardly to cast a vote during the second impeachment, who was too cowardly to show up for the vote on the January 6th commission, who is too cowardly to admit that the election was stolen. He doesn't even believe the election was stolen. And then, of course, you put the icing on top of the cake by this last week, Dan Webster skipped the vote with regards to the NASA bill. And if you don't know what the NASA bill is, that's that's the bill that the Democrats decided to shove their voting rights legislation in an effort to deceive and dupe the American public into thinking that it was some bill about NASA when really it's a bill to federalize our elections. So I'm hopeful that I will receive President Trump's support again this election cycle.
Yeah, the Democrats nowadays employ really criminal ways, deceiving ways to push their agenda through, an agenda that doesn't have the roots in American reality altogether. Everybody, every citizen in the United States can vote and should vote. It's a privilege, it's an honor, it's a duty. And people shouldn't be skipping this. And, дорогие друзья, слова Laura Loomer for Congress внизу экрана, это не просто так здесь написано. Это написано для того, чтобы вы ознакомились с ее программой и, возможно, подумали о том, чтобы поддержать ее парой долларов. Там есть эта возможность, очень удобно все это можно сделать. Так же, как мы это делали в отношении других важных, молодых, энергичных, агрессивных кандидатов на нашей стороне. I'm saying that the words Laura Loomer for Congress at the bottom of the screen are not for nothing there. People should try, you should, or the dear viewers, you should try and visit this link and read more about Laura Loomer and consider donating to her campaign. She can use your money with very, very great result for our common future and the future of your kids who may look exactly like her. Laura, tell us about your career with Veritas. Veritas is very esteemed in Russian circles. It brings a lot of memories on the struggle that our people had in the Soviet times. How did it work for you? Or was it what everybody thinks it is? Meaning the operation that really sheds light on the on what's going on.
So I write about that in my book, actually, that just came out. It's called LOOMER, How I Became the Most Banned Woman in the World. It's an autobiography. It just came out a couple months ago. People can get it online. And in the chapter titled Girl Undercover, I talk about my experience with Project Veritas. And, I was president of college Republicans at my college in Miami, Barry University. And I ended up getting kicked out of college a month before graduation, my senior year, even though I was set to be valedictorian, for doing an expose with Project Veritas on my university. And then I, of course, packed up all my stuff and my Jeep and, I everything I owned, I put in my car and I drove to New York, and I moved to New York to go work for Project Veritas, where I was immediately undercover in the Hillary Clinton campaign from day one of her campaign, exposing voter fraud and corruption. And, it was great. And I did a lot of exposés with and investigations with Project Veritas. I worked there for 3 years. And then ultimately, of course, I decided to start my own media company. And that's when I invented loomering, right? You've probably seen my videos like you just showed, me confronting and exposing leftists and jihadists and all the Jew haters and, all the anti-American politicians. And then because my work became so effective, I was targeted, right? I was targeted by big tech and the Democrats. I was targeted by the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is essentially Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States. And I became deplatformed and was really the canary in the coal mine for all of this censorship that we're now seeing. And so fast forward several years, and now it's become completely mainstream. You had a sitting United States president who's deplatformed. My campaign was the first deplatformed campaign in United States history. And we're not giving up, right? I brought lawsuits against Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Apple that went all the way to the Supreme Court this last year. And I am determined to unseat a rhino in this primary election here in August and get to Congress where I will fight against this communist takeover. And so, it's been a long journey. I'm 28 years old. And I was working with Project Veritas from the time I was 21, but really I've been involved in all of this activism since I was 18. So it's been a decade, a decade of nonstop, fighting. That's what I feel like. I feel like I've just been in combat mode for an entire decade of my life. And, I wouldn't change anything, but I certainly hope that, we're able to get this country on back so that people can cannot feel like they just have to wake up and fight every single day. That it just feels like it's a struggle, doesn't it?
You definitely work. I can tell you for sure. You definitely work for for support of the people you're fighting for, and you're very visible. And it's well deserved. Your popularity, even within the circles of your enemies, our common enemies, they hate you really big time. I watched a whole lineup of nobodies on YouTube criticizing you in very expensive productions. Nobody's watching them. But of course, this is the world we live in, and you definitely represent the new generation, and you represent people who are. We want to see more of people like you, however unique you are. Let me ask you. Yeah.
You asked me how, for me, how I think that more young people can get involved. Well, I'm an activist, and so I may be a congressional candidate. And when I win, maybe they will call me a politician, right? I will be an elected member of Congress. But I will always be an activist and, maintain that activist spirit. And so just like the Democrat Party was able to fundamentally transform itself and become the Communist Party with the elections of 4 Marxist jihadist women, one of whom, of course, is AOC, where you live in New York. And I think that the same thing can happen in the Republican Party. And so, the goal of the Laura Loomer for Congress campaign is we really are inspiring and leading the charge of this America First hostile takeover of the GOP. And so we can fundamentally transform the GOP and force these rhinos and do nothing Republican obstructionists out of office and replace them with America First constitutional conservative fighters who are not going to go along to get along or put optics first when it comes to legislating. And so that's what we need. We need people who are going to fight fire with fire. And I hope that, with my election, I'm successful in unseating this rhino, and victory will inspire other activists to start transplanting themselves across the country into districts where they can win, and taking over the Republican Party, because that's what we need to do. It's not enough to just take back the House, because, let's be honest, we had the House and the Senate when Donald Trump was president for a period of his presidency, and what got done? Absolutely nothing got done, because these Republican lawmakers, 99% of them are cowards. They're weak, they're feckless, and they let Donald Trump take all of the shots and all of the blows. And so if we want to take this country back, right, it begins with having a hostile takeover of the GOP.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Let me ask you, do you hear anything encouraging from Marco Rubio and Rick Scott? Same district, right? Same area?
Well, it's Florida. It's not
Floridians,
the
yeah, okay.
They're state senators, yeah. Well, United States senators for the state of Florida. But no, they're not. Marco Rubio, of course, lives down by Miami, and then Rick Scott, a little bit further north. But they have not spoken out about my candidacy now.
That's amazing. It's about time, I would say, but let's give them another chance to come through and support you, because they haven't.
Not many politicians are speaking out about my race. I'm kind of like that like nuclear candidate, right? Where people are just kind of sitting there like biting their nails, waiting to see what happens.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, well, I guess I'll come out and support her when she wins, or, if she wins. But, because I speak the truth, and because I'm uncensored, and because I'm unfiltered, and I really honestly don't care about offending the left or the GOP for that matter, they're scared, because a lot of these politicians care more about optics, right? They don't want CNN to go write a nasty piece about them, or, God forbid somebody post a mean tweet about them criticizing their policies. And so, everything that I say is right. I challenge anybody to, question or challenge the validity of anything that I say, anything that I do. I've certainly been ahead of my time. A lot of the things that people criticize me for are stylistic. So they may not like my style, they may not like my tactic, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that what I'm doing or what I'm saying isn't true. And so I'm concerned with the truth and whether or not it's true. So something may not be tasteful, or something may, like I said, be quote unquote offensive, but all I care about is whether it's true. And everything that I say is true. And that's a lesson that we need to start force feeding the Republican Party leadership, because, it's this reason why our country's failing. They are just so cowardly when it comes to fighting back. And, I think of all the America First members of Congress who have been stripped of their committee assignments, while we have full-blown jihadists and Jew haters like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who are tied to ISIS and Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee. The Republicans are more worried about offending Muslims, right, or dancing around the feelings of Muslims, trying not to saber rattle Muslims around the world, than they are about the national security of our own country, right? So, it's a shame. It's a shame what's happening, but I'm hoping that we're able to fix it with the election of several America First fighters.
Laura, let me ask you, were you following the Colleyville Synagogue story that unveiled these days?
Of course.
What do you think of it?
I mean,
the
look,
behavior of FBI, after all.
This is what, in my book, I talk about this. In my book, I call the FBI the Federal Bureau of Islam. And I posted a post, and I was obviously being snarky, and I said, condolences to Christopher Wray, director of the FBI, who I'm sure is grieving today, following the news that FBI agents in Texas had to put a bullet inside the head of the Islamic terrorists who stormed a synagogue in Texas before FBI headquarters in D.C. could send the jihadi a job application to become their newest operative. And that's exactly what happened. And today, Jen Psaki, Joe Biden's press secretary, admitted that the FBI let this guy into this country, even though he was known by British intelligence of being a jihadist and had a criminal record and fantasized about 9/11 and, was clearly not mentally ill like his family and his mosque in the UK are claiming. Okay. But he's a Muslim. He's a radical Muslim. He practices Islam. And if you read the Quran, there's more Jew hatred in the Quran than Hitler's Mein Kampf. So am I really surprised that a Muslim migrant who came into this country while the feds were completely aware of his terrorist activity, am I surprised that a Muslim stormed a synagogue and held everybody hostage in the name of Islam? No, I'm not. And people wouldn't be surprised if they actually stopped dancing around the truth regarding political Islam, and they started teaching it for what it really is. Perhaps people need to start reading the Quran and educating themselves. The FBI came out and said, oh, well, there's no evidence that this was an act of Islamic terrorism. Well, when are we going to have an open, honest conversation?
They were the only surprised side in this whole surprise by that. I mean, everybody else took it as a given, so to speak, unfortunately for our times. I want to play the second video that I pulled off your YouTube. Friends, Laura has a presence on YouTube, and besides her website where you can get the links, you can go directly to YouTube, but don't pass by the website LoomerForCongress.com. Please leave your mark, read the information there, send a letter of support, and consider a donation to her campaign. So video made by your campaign, again, I would love to share it with the public.
Joe Biden thinks public schools all over America should teach students more about Islam because, deep down, we all have the same fundamental beliefs.
I wish we taught more in our schools about the Islamic faith. We all come from the same root here in terms of our fundamental basic beliefs.
Congressional candidate Laura Loomer knows better, and she wants to teach Joe a few things. See, fundamentalist Muslims believe it's their duty to impose their religious law on everyone, including you and your kids, through violence if necessary. The Holy Book of Islam advises terrorizing the enemies of Allah. The Holy Book of Islam advises forcing non-Muslims to pay taxes to Muslims. Did you ever learn this stuff, Joe? Or did you forget it all? Laura Loomer will never support teaching our public school kids that the fundamentals of Islam are for them. On August 23rd, vote for Laura Loomer in the Republican primary.
I'm Laura Loomer, and I approve this message.
Yet another fantastic video, Laura. Thank you very much for bringing it to the forefront of discussion in our society. It's very, very important. No one should get offended by it except by the fact that it's in our lives and we have not dealt with it successfully until this very moment. We have to start working on it. We have to start whatever it takes, building bridges, breaking bridges, whatever they say. It has to get, we have to get rid of all this. Let me ask you one question, which could be, answer could be short or could be longer. Everybody's saying the last week for Joe Biden was a very bad week for his presidency. What do you think? How do you? Should we be bracing ourselves for the worst week?
Every day is a bad day for Joe Biden. Okay, and I don't even want to say the word presidency because I do not recognize him as a legitimate president. He is an installed Alzheimer's patient, and so every single day is a bad day for Joe Biden. I mean, look, they said that he has a 33% approval rating. Who are these 33%? I've never met a single person who actually supports Joe Biden. Honestly, I've never met a single person. And I'm not saying that to be facetious or funny. I have never met a person who actually likes Joe Biden. So I refuse to believe that he received 81 million votes. Okay. The synagogue terrorist attack where Joe Biden called it terror, but refused to say the phrase Islamic terror brings me back to the days of Barack Hussein Obama, where our law enforcement agencies and our national security agencies were undermined and basically disabled from effectively combating Islamic terrorism through this politically correct transformation of how we enforce the law and protect Americans in this country, effectively eliminating the phrase Islamic terrorism from our vocabulary. And so, of course, then, when Senators Manchin and Senator Sinema said that they were not going to go along with Joe Biden and the Democrat Party's attempt to completely federalize our elections and allow for illegal aliens to vote, that was another devastating blow to the Biden regime, which every single day is realizing that the American people, freedom-loving people, reject their communist form of government, right? This regime, they reject the regime that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are trying to impose via force onto the American people. And so I'm happy to see that people are resisting and fighting back because this is communism, and people are starting to see it. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. This is communism.
Yeah, we're looking with our experience. I lived 36 years under Soviets and then what became the Republic of Uzbekistan. I'm from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and my ancestors came during the World War II from Odessa to Uzbekistan. But we know that communism, socialism is nothing but blood and grift. Two things: thieving and killing people. That's all there is to it. And it's so amazing that so many people are misled by those words. Same thing in Latin America. Same thing in parts of Europe that were socialist. Same thing in Africa, even more. Same thing in China. So it's just, for us, it's mind-boggling. And I thank you for bringing clarity to this matter and trying to brighten the American minds that are, let's be honest, asleep at the wheel for a long, long time, voting for people in Congress that do not represent them, who work into their own pockets, to their own benefit, to their own profit, and they enrich the enemies. So much propaganda was had by propaganda weapon had been had by Vladimir Putin from this Biden even less than a year. He armed him to the teeth with all the information. The number of trolls who come to all Russian video blogs. It's amazing. It's an ideological attack, and they know they propagate whatever Joe Biden says today. Tomorrow, it's their weapon against the United States. Great damage. Right,
but at the end of the day, is it really a weapon or is it the truth?
I can tell.
Is it really propaganda? Is it really propaganda when you have a dictator like Joe Biden, who is just issuing executive order after executive order, completely bypassing and ignoring our legislative process here in America, and, implementing these draconian mandates, I don't really see it as propaganda. I see it as other people around the world rightfully criticizing the individual who is supposed to be the leader of the free world. And we are not a free country anymore. So I wouldn't even say that it's propaganda, because it's fair game at this point for people to criticize Joe Biden and the failed leadership of the Democrat Party in the United States of America right now.
No,
It's fair game to be calling it out.
They not that much criticize Joe Biden per se. They criticize the country, and to me, that's my opinion. The approach that Donald Trump was implementing was, you do what's good for your country, and I will do what's good for mine. That was the right thing. America shouldn't be dictating anybody how to run their things. You cannot guarantee the results. Even in the United States, you cannot guarantee the results if you offer sane, reasonable ideas. But you cannot guarantee what they're going to do with it in Russia.
The criticism is fair. I mean, look, even Donald Trump said it the other day. He said the United States is fallen right now, and he said that we are not respected. For like the first time in United States history, we are truly not respected anymore. And so I think that I wouldn't even say that it's propaganda. I would say that it is legitimate criticism. We do not have free and fair elections in this country anymore. We have censorship. We have political prisoners. So as far as I'm concerned, how can the United States of America, and I love my country and I'm fighting to turn my country around so that we do not become a communist nation, but how can the United States of America continue to claim to have moral authority, right, over other so-called third world nations or dictatorships around the world when we have a guy in the White House who is okay with, weaponizing the DOJ? That's like the KGB rounding people up and holding them as political prisoners or hostages. Okay. The FBI has now become the Joe Biden administration and the Democrat Party's personal Gestapo hit force. And we have political prisoners in this country. And so I would say that other countries criticizing America right now, it's legitimate criticism. I would not call it propaganda.
You know what? To our Russian eye, and consider us, a little bit old world and old-fashioned, but there is, trust me, there is a propaganda, and it's very much like Biden's propaganda, Biden's White House propaganda, trying to denigrate American citizens, trying to like you animals, like you are animals now, like the rest of the world. And the rest of the world will eat you up because you are nothing and you fell apart right away as long as your country was touched by certain events that we experience every day. Your country fell apart. And there is a malicious, not criticism even, I would say, but this desire to ruin our spirit. And to this, we resist. And a lot of it is coming from Russia, outside of the facts that we all know better than most.
We are resisting, but I when I think of spirits being broken, I don't blame foreign countries. I don't blame Vladimir Putin. I don't blame the Russian government. I blame the Democrat Party and the Biden regime for locking people down, imposing mandates, stealing an election, and depriving people of their constitutional rights. That is who is responsible for breaking the spirits of the American people right now.
Absolutely.
And so I think that people around the world are right to criticize the current state of the United States of America, because we are no longer a free country. And I'm hoping that we can push these Democrats out and regain control of our government and break the chains of this communist Democrat opposition government that we have found ourselves in. But until we do, America will continue to be criticized by other nations around the world, because what we are witnessing right now, and what everybody around the world is witnessing right now, is complete failed leadership. This is not leadership.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly on the failed leadership. And I would say that the story of people who are in jail today because of January 6th, and the story of Ashley Babbitt's death, and whatever happened, nothing happened to this Michael Byrd, the lieutenant of Capitol Police. It's just outrageous. Nowhere in the world. They outdid the Kremlin, I would say, in this part of the story. That's I agree with you, but it comes from within. It comes from our understanding of the truth.
Yeah, exactly. They outdid the Kremlin, in your own words.
Laura, thank you so very much. Thank you for finding time, and I hope we'll do something together in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, no, again, and thanks for having me on. And again, people want to get my book. It's called LOOMERed, How I Became the Most Banned Woman in the World. You can get it from Barnes & Noble and other online retailers. And again, go to my website, lauraloomerforcongress.com, and that's where you can follow my campaign, subscribe, and donate to my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Спасибо большое всем, кто слушал. Дорогие друзья, в 10 часов у нас будет следующий выпуск, уже наш дежурный выпуск, наш обычный вторничный выпуск. Спасибо еще раз. Laura, thank you so very much. And we wish you victory, and you found friends in new places, I hope.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.